Okay, so now we are going to talk about the finance part of word problems. I'm not going to speak about these sections in too much of depth. I'm just going to teach you everything that you need to know. And then as we get to grade 12 level, I will start to teach you the more in-depth stuff that very few teachers actually talk about. Right, but that's not talked about in much depth at secondary school. And it's only things that are introduced at university that gives you much more clarity about these topics. But for now, let's just learn the basics first. The first thing we will talk about is simple interest and compound interest. When we work with simple interest and compound interest, you need to remember that it's just two methods of growth. So basically, you have some amount or you have something and you're trying to grow it. You could either grow it by using the method of simple interest or compound interest. These are just two different methods of growing, like an investment or anything, right? Growing an investment or a loan to earn interest, right? It's a different way. There's just two different ways. It's basically two growth methods. That's what we call it, two growth methods. With simple interest, your money is earned on the initial amount invested. So basically what this means is however much you put into the account, your interest is earned on that amount. So if you put 5,000, whatever the interest is, you will earn on that 5,000. And basically for 3 years, it'll just be 3 years multiplied by however much of interest is calculated on that principal amount. Now you just need to remember this, right? You have some value P. P is the amount that you invest. It's called the principal amount. A is what we call the accumulated amount. I is the interest. You need to remember, see, I and P, basically what this interest means, it's taking some fraction of the principal amount and they're paying it back to you. That's all the whole point of putting money into the bank. We want to put the money into the bank so that we can earn interest on that money. What's the point of putting money? Interest is basically like income. When we start talking about these things in terms of loans, and we talk about interest on a loan, then interest is basically income to the bank. If they gave you 100,000 Rand, they'll charge you a specific interest. So that interest is a fraction of that 100,000 Rand that you will pay to them, right? And that money is basically the income to the bank. That's how banks make their profit. That's how they stay in business, by earning money on the money that they give you, right? So they charge you a certain percentage of the money that they give you. Okay, so you're basically paying them back that money. Okay, anyways, so we understand that. The first formula that you must remember is A is equal to P into 1 plus IN. So basically what the P is the amount that you invest, I is the interest, N is the time period, right? Or the number of years or the number of months that you put the money into the bank. But you see, N can be years, months, whatever, but we will only work with it in terms of years, not months. So that's more a higher grade. Okay, so A is equal to P into 1 plus IN. If you have to distribute the P into the brackets, you get P plus PIN. See this value here, P is the amount you invest. PIN is the interest you collect. So basically what we can say is that P is the amount you invested. So we can say that the S dot I, the simple interest, is P dot I dot N. So if they tell you to calculate the amount of interest you will collect after 2 years, it'll be the amount you invested multiplied by the interest rate multiplied by 2. That's how much interest you get. Again, remember you got two parts. You got P, you got I. This is the amount that is invested. This is the earnings, the profit. You can think about it of it like that. The profit or the earnings. That's what I is. You will always think about this in two parts. The money that you invested and the money that you earned. Always think about it in two parts. Money that you invested, money that you earned. Principal interest. Just keep that at the back of your mind always. So some important things to remember. When given the interest as a percentage, we call this the rate. We must convert this rate to a decimal or a fraction. So if they tell you 10% per annum, you must say it's 10 over 100. There's a lot of students that make the mistake, they just put the number 10 and they forget what the percentage sign. The percentage sign basically means divide by 100. Okay? And P is the initial amount invested, and PIN is the amount of interest earned over N periods, years, months, days, whatever it is, which is equivalent to A minus N. So if A is the amount that you earn, and P is the amount that you put into the investment, right? A is the amount you earn, and if A is P and I, therefore if you subtract this 2, you should get the interest amount, right? So this is equivalent to PIN. How did I get that? If I take this equation here and I subtract both sides by P, I'll get A minus P is equal to PIN, which makes sense mathematically. this A value includes both the amount that you invested and the interest. And this is the amount that you invested. So if you take out the P from both, you get I. So the interest that you collect in this investment or whatever is PIN. And you can obviously use this in many contexts. I'm not talking about, it's not only limited to the context of investments, right? It can also be on loans and whatever the case may be. Okay. With compound interest, we earn interest on the initial investment and interest on interest as the years progress. Let's derive the formula. So we're not going to derive the formula, right? These are things, or these are notes that I took from higher grades like grade 11 and 12 that I just took, right? Because basically it's relevant to you, somewhat relevant to you. But all you have to remember is the formula for compound interest is A is equal to P into 1 plus I to the power of n. Now you need to know how it differs from the simple interest formula. Here you're raising to the power of n, here you're multiplying by n. Right. What this A amount is, this A amount here is your principal and your interest. Right? To calculate your interest, you have to first find the accumulated amount, then subtract the principal value from it. Now there are ways that we can calculate the interest, but I will not talk about that for now. But think about this. If after 5 years, let's say I put in 100,000, and after 5 years the account becomes 200,000. So basically this is my P, that's the A value. Then in this value you have your principal, your invested amount, plus your interest in it. So therefore if I subtract A and P, I get 100,000. Right? Exact same idea. It's a bit more complex. But all you have to know at a grade 9 level is this. In your A value, what we have inside there is interest and your invested amount. So therefore, if I subtract the invested amount, I'll be able to get the interest. Right? So that's all you need to know. Now let's solve problems and expand our ideas on these topics. Sarah borrows 2,000 from a bank to buy a new laptop. The bank charges a simple interest rate of 4% per year. If Sarah plans to repay the loan after 5 years, how much interest will she pay? And what will the total amount she pay back to the bank? Now I could solve this in one of two ways. See, the interest amount, just the interest rate, they're talking about only the interest, is equal to P times I times N, which is equal to 2,000 Rand into interest is 4%, so that's 4 over 100 multiplied by 5. Now, remember, although I said that simple interest and compound interest are methods of growth, it's the same thing applying for a bank. The bank uses the simple interest to grow its business, to earn a profit. But for you, it's a loss. For them, it's an income. So it's the exact same idea. Now we're thinking, for the interest part, the interest is income to the bank. Right? So it's the same thing. That's why it's a method of growth. So therefore, if we have to multiply this out, we get 2,000 times 4 times 5 divided by 100 is 400 Rand. So 400 Rand interest is, she'll pay after 5 years, she'll pay 400 Rand of interest to the bank. So how much will she pay in total? It'll be the 2,000 plus the 400, which will be 2,400. Alternatively, what I could have done was, I could have said, it is A is equal to P into 1 plus I times N. Your P is your 2,000 into 1 plus, what's your I? 4 over 100 multiplied by 5. Now see, watch here. We put brackets, put these brackets here, right? If I distribute this 2,000 in, I'll get 2,000 plus 2,000 times 4 over 100 times 5. And see these parts here. This part here is the same as this part here. So that's talking about the interest only. So you're taking what this formula does here. It takes the amount that you invested and adds it to the interest amount and spits out one answer for you. Right? It gives you one answer. So that's 2,400. Right? This is the amount that you'll pay back to the bank in total. But what we can do here is to get the interest amount, you'll take this accumulated amount and subtract it from the invested amount, which will also give you 400. Right? They can go a step further. They said that if she made equal monthly repayments to the bank, how much was a monthly repayment? Then it'll be 2,400 divided by 5 years multiplied by 12 months. So how many months are there in 5 years? Is you'll say 5 times 12, which will be 2,400 divided by 60, which gives you 40 Rand. So she paid 40 Rand per month to the bank. Okay, very simple ideas. Logical, very logical ideas. Just using and I just want to remind you, that's all you will ever be doing. That's all you will ever be doing. You'll be using this formula, A is equal to P into 1 plus IN. You'll be using this formula, or you'll be using A is equal to P into 1 plus I to the power of n, this formula here. That is all you will ever be doing, trust me, and this formula. So there's only 4 formulas that you have to remember. A minus B is equal to the interest. A is equal to P into 1 plus I to the power n. A is equal to P into 1 plus IN. And A is equal to PIN. That's only 4 formulae that you will be using. So it's very easy. These are deposits 1,500 into a savings account that earns a simple interest rate of 2,500 per year. How much interest will she earn in 6 years? And what will the total amount be in a savings account? Same idea here. You can solve that. So it'll be 1,500. So we'll say A is equal to P into 1 plus IN. P is 1,500 into 1 plus, what's your I? 2,5 over 100. And you multiply that by 6 years. Right? And then if you multiply this out, you get 1,725. So therefore, she paid 225 Rand worth of what? Interest. So therefore, she earned 225 Rand of interest, and she got a total of 1,725 from this simple interest account. Emily took out a personal loan of 8,000 Rand to renovate her house. The loan agreement states that she will be charged a simple interest rate of 5% annually. She agrees to repay the loan in monthly installments over 4 years. How much interest will she pay in total, and what will the monthly installments be? Very simple idea. Same formula, just plug and play now. Same formula. So it'll be 8,000 Rand into 1 plus 5%, which will be 5 over 100 into 4. Right? Therefore, we get 9,600 Rand is the total amount that she'll pay to the bank. How much of interest will she pay? Will be 9,600 minus 8,000, which is 1,600. And the monthly installments will be 9,600 divided by 4 times 12, which is 9,600 divided by 48, which is 200 Rand per month. Right? Very simple. I should invest 2,000 Rand into a savings account that earns a simple interest rate of 5% per year. How much interest will she earn? In 3 years, let's just use a simple interest formula, right? So it'll be 2,000 into 5 over 100 multiplied by 3, which will give you times 5 times 3, 300 Rand. So 300 Rand worth of interest she will earn after 3 years. Sarah takes out a loan of 5,000 Rand at a simple interest rate of 6% per annum. For 4 years, how much interest will she earn by the end of the loan period? Again, same story. It will be 5,000 into 6 over 100 multiplied by 4, and that should give us 5,000 multiplied by 6 over 100. That gives us 1,200 Rand worth of interest. A car dealership offers a financing option where customers can pay 25,000 Rand for a car with a simple interest rate of 7% per annum. If the customer decides to pay off the car in 3 years, how much of interest will they have paid? So that this person or the dealership offers an option where the potential customer can take a loan for 25,000 Rand at an interest rate of 7%, but it has to be paid off in 3 years. So how much of interest would that person have paid? It'll be simple interest is equal to 25,000 Rand into 7 over 100 multiplied by 3, which will be 25,000 times 7 times 3 divided by 100, which gives us 5,250 Rand worth of interest that person would have paid if they bought this car on taking a loan of 25,000. A college student invests 10,000 into a fixed account that earns an interest of 8% per year. If the student plans to keep the money in the account for 5 years, what will the total amount in the account be at the end of the period? See, exact same idea. The theory remains the same, but the questions change. However they may phrase the question, it still remains the same. Right, so that's 8% into 5 years. And what do we get here? It'll be 10,000 times 8. It should get you 14,000 Rand. So in total, at the end of 5 years, it'll be 14,000. Right, now compound interest involves a bit more calculation. Very simple idea, involves a bit more calculation and a bit more thinking. Right? So Mark invests 3,000 in a bank account that offers a compound interest rate of 5% per annum. How much will you have in the bank account after 7 years? Very, very simple idea. A is equal to P into 1 plus I to the power of N. So, okay, so therefore it will be 3,000 Rand into 1 plus interest rate of 5 over 100 multiplied by 7. So therefore, what we can say is it'll be 3,000 into 1 plus the interest rate of 5 over 100 to the power of 7. And we get 4,221,30. Right. A company invests 50,000 into a project that yields a compound interest rate of 10% per year. What will the total be after 10 years? Exact same idea. It's just growth. It's just growth. Right? So it'll be P into 1 plus I to the power of N. P is 50,000 Rand into 1 plus interest rate of 10 over 100 raised to the power of 10. And we get 129,687.12 Rand. So that's how much we'd get. Emily invests 1,200 into a savings account at a compound interest rate of 3% per annum. How much money will she have in the account after 4 years? So what I will do is I will solve the problem and you have to check if your answer is correct, right? At an interest rate of 3%. So at the end of 4 years, she should get 1,350,61. Right. Maria invests 10,000 into a savings account that pays an annual interest rate of 6% compound interest. How much interest will she have after 5 years? Right, how much interest she'll have after 5 years. So again, as I spoke about it previously, to find the interest when you have the compound interest formula, it's not as straightforward as using a formula. You have to first find out the A and then subtract it by the P. Right, so if we find the A here, it'll be A is equal to P into 1 plus IN. Right, so therefore we'll get 13,382,26 is how much she will have in the savings account at the end of 5 years, but we want the interest. So for interest, we have to say it's equal to A minus P. So this A is the accumulated amount. It includes the 10,000 and the interest amount. So therefore, to get the interest amount only, it'll be 13,382.26 minus 10,000, which will equal to 3,382.26. Right? David deposits 5,000 into an account that earns an annual interest rate of 7% compound interest. How much of interest will be at the end of 18 months? So this is very important. The reason that I discussed this question is because this is something that you need to remember. The units of I and the units of N work hand in hand. And this is why it's very important. You see this interest rate here. It says per annum. What per annum means, it means per year. So what this per year amount does, every year it adds this amount of interest to the account. Your N tells you how many years or how many times this interest must be added into the account. So this amount here must also be a yearly amount. If this amount here was in a monthly amount, this must be in monthly. If this was in quarterly, this must be in quarterly. But for grade 9, we'll only work with yearly. So if this is in yearly, this must also be in yearly. Why? Because if this 5,000 Rand is put into the savings account, earns a 7%, see 5,000 Rand, is put into a savings account with 7% per year. So how many years was it in the account? How many times did this thing collect interest? Did this 5,000 collect interest? It collected interest 18 divided by 12 times, which is 1.5 years. So 1.5 year worth of interest this 5,000 collected. It's not 18 times. If you raise this to the power of 18, if you put the n year as 18, then you're raising it to the 18. You're telling the formula that it earned interest 18 times when it only earned interest 1.5 times, because interest is a yearly amount. Understood? So even when you work with simple interest, you need to keep this in mind. The I and the n works hand in hand. Please keep that in mind, right? So it'll be, if we solve this, we should get a is equal to p into 1 plus I to the power of n. So that's 5,000 into 1 plus 7 over 100 raised to the power of not 18, but 18 divided by 12, which is 1,5. 1,5. And what answer we get there is 5,534,08. And if I find the interest amount, I subtract this of both amounts. It'll be the 5,534,08 minus 5,000, which will give me 534,08 rand worth of interest into the account. Right, so that's about it for the financial part for simple and compound interest. Keep this in mind. This is something that I needed you to remember. And all you have to remember is your four formulae, and this I and n works hand in hand. So if you have a per year interest amount, your n has to be a yearly amount. It cannot be in months, it cannot be in anything else but a yearly amount, because the n tells the formula how many times it must earn interest. So this year did not earn interest 18 months, it earned interest for 1.5 months, because the interest amount is in a yearly amount. Okay, so that's about it for the interest portion. Okay, so now we will talk about the next part of the finance module, which will be selling price, cost price, markup, discount, hire purchase, and foreign exchange rates. And so this falls under your finance part of the word problems course. Right, so this is at a grade 9 level. The price an item is bought is the cost price, and the price that it is sold at is the selling price. So the cost price, if you're looking from business to business, the price that one business pays to acquire an item from another business is called the cost price. The price that that business sells the item to the customer is called the selling price, right? Because they need to make a profit. That's the whole point of a business. The profit made is the markup. So you have the cost price, which represents 100%. You'll have your 10% markup, and then you'll have your selling price, right? So your cost price plus your markup will give you your selling price, which represents 110%. Here, your selling price, when you're talking in terms of discounts, we only consider the selling price. The selling price represents 100%. Then you have your discount. Your discount is basically whatever rate less than the selling price. If you're selling it 3% at a 3% discount, it'll be 3%. The discount rate will be 3%. At a 4% discount, the discount rate will be 4%. And the discounted price is equal to the 100 minus the discount rate, which will give you either 97 or 96, or whatever the case may be. Right, so now once we have all of that there, we understand the whole idea with cost price, markup, discounted, and selling price, then we basically have everything that we need to solve a few problems. So let's put these ideas to practice. A pair of shoes originally priced at 1,200 Rand is on sale for 25%. So this is the selling price. This is the discount rate, or the discount. So therefore this here represents 100%. And this 25% represents the discount rate. So what is the sale price of the shoes? So what would the customer pay? The customer would pay what? 75%. Because if you're charging them 25% less from the normal selling price, then they'll just pay 75%. So it'll be 1,200 multiplied by 75% over 100 equals to 900. So this person will pay 900 Rand. Now, this idea goes back to exactly what we've talked about at the beginning. 1,200 Rand represents what? It represents the selling price. So if you have to take this diagram, this exact diagram that we had here, so basically what we're doing is we're going to take this entire rectangle here and divide it up into how many parts? 100 parts. Because these 100 parts must make up this big rectangle, isn't it? And then what we're doing is we find it for a single unit, right? The power of 1. For a single unit, what's the value? That is why we divide the 1200 by 100 parts, and then we multiply it by how many parts are we looking for? We're looking for 75 parts out of the 25. Right, do you understand? So we're not doing anything different. It's the same idea, same logic. We're just trying to find the unknown. Or alternatively, what we could do is we could say 75, the discount price over the selling price, which is 100, must equal to the discount price, which is what we're going to find, or the sale price, same thing, same words, over 1200. Then therefore x is equal to 1200 multiplied by 75 over 100, right? And then we should get, we're dividing this into 100 parts and then multiplying it by 75. Same idea, just different way of representing it. We should get 900 here as well. But same idea, just applied differently. A television set is marked down from 5,000 to 3,800. What is the percentage discount given on the television? Now, the 5,000 represents the 100%. The 3,800 is the selling price. This represents 100 minus X percent. What does the X represent? The X is the discount rate, isn't it? So what we can say is that we can say 3,800 over 5,000 must equal to 100 minus X over 100. Now the percentage will both cancel, right? If I divide by 100 on the numerator and the denominator, it'll eventually cancel. And if you have to solve for X here, we get 38 over 50 multiplied by 100 equals to 100 minus X. So we should get 38 divided by 50 is 76 is equal to 100 minus X. So therefore X is equal to 100 minus 76, or 100 minus 76, which is 24%. So therefore the percentage discount is 24%. You see, another way I could have thought of this was, here now I just created one single equation. Another way I could have thought of this here, I could have said, okay, if this here represents 5,000, and if this here represents 3,800, then what fraction of the 5,000 is 3,800? So I'll say, okay, 3,800 divided by 5,000 will give me some decimal. I'll multiply it by 100 and I'll get a percentage. So this will give me 0.76 multiplied by 100 gives me 76%. So 76% of the total selling price is the discounted price. But we want to find out what's the discount rate. So 100 minus the discount rate will give you 24%. Understood? So 100% minus 76% will give you 24%. And that's how you could solve the problem. But here, I'm using one single equation. That represents 100%. This represents X, because we don't know it. So this here must represent 100 minus X. Understood? Percent. So that's 100%, 100 minus X percent, and X percent. Then I created equivalent fractions. Because this here over this, see, discounted price over selling price must equal to discounted price over selling price. If this represents for a single unit, then everything else must be either scaled up or scaled down from it. Understood? So that's how we are able to solve that question. Alright, let's look at the next question. A store offers a 15% discount on all items during a clearance sale. If the jacket cost 800, what will be the price after the discount? So basically it cost 800 Rand, so that's the selling price. But now they put a discount on it. So therefore what we can say, 100 minus 15 is what? 100 minus 15 should be 85%. So therefore 800 multiplied by 85 over 100 should give us 680. So the discounted or the sale price will be 680, or the discounted price will be 680, whatever you want to call it. A book is priced at 250. There's a 10% discount. How much will you save if you buy the book during the discount period? So you see here, this discount here is a loss to the business, but it's a win to you. Think about that. This is a loss to the business because they could have sold it for the full 100%, but now they're selling it less than the 100%, by 3% less, but it's a profit to you. So therefore what they're telling you is to find out what's the discount, how much is the discount. So basically, like in rands, they gave you a percentage, now we're asking in rands what's the discount. So therefore we can say that 250 divided by 100 parts multiplied by 10 will give us 250 divided by 100 multiplied by 10 should give you 25 Rand. So 25 Rand is the amount that the business will lose, but you will gain. That's the way life goes, right? Black and white. So when one person gains, another person has to lose. That's how it goes. It's a zero-sum game, is what we say. Right, so you have 25 Rand is the discount. Right, very, very, very nice questions, just different perspectives, but you're just basically asking the same thing. Right, so basically what we can learn from this is if you're dealing with discount problems, keep this diagram in your mind. If you're dealing with markup problems, keep this diagram here in your mind. And then you'll be able to solve any questions, because I'm only using those diagrams to solve. Right, I have a visual idea of what we're talking about. Right, a retailer buys a bicycle for 1,500 and marks it up by 20%. What will the selling price on the bicycle be? Very simple. 1,500 represents the cost price, so it represents 100%. Then we got to mark up by 20%. So we want to find out the 120%, isn't it? So watch how brilliant this is, right? Now you have 110% here. This entire block here must be broken up into how many parts? Or be broken up into 110 parts, isn't it? And all must be the same space. But it's the same thing as saying in this block here, break this block here up here to 100 parts and break this block here up into 10 parts, and you'll get the value of a single block. Right? You'll get the value of a single block. You take that single block and you multiply it by 110 and you'll get the selling price. Right, let me repeat that. This entire block here must be broken up into 110 parts, into 110 blocks or 110 rectangles. Alright? Now, we're given the cost price. So it's the same as saying this block here must be broken up into 100 equal rectangles and this block here must be broken up into 10 equal rectangles. So then the space of this block here and the space of that block will be the same. These will be the same number of parts. Then what we're doing is, by taking the cost price and dividing it by 100, we're getting the value of a single block. And then you take that and you multiply it by 110 and you'll get the selling price of the item. So it's the exact same idea. So what I'm saying is, with this 1,500, if I divide this 1,500 by 100, I get the value of a single block. Then I'll multiply it by 120 and I'll get the selling price, because that's 100 plus the 20% markup should give you 120. And then we should get 15 times 120 is 1,800. So it's the selling price of the bag. Right? A store purchases a laptop for 10,000 and applies a markup of 2,500. What is the final selling price of the laptop? Cost price, markup should give you 12,500. Straightforward question. A clothing manufacturer produces a shirt at a cost of 150 Rand and it marks it up by 40%. What will the selling price be of the shirt? This is the cost price. I need to find out for a single unit how much would that be, and then I multiply it by 140 to get it for 140 units, which represents the selling price, and we should get 150 divided by 100 multiplied by 140, 210. Alternatively, what you could do was, you could say cost price over selling price is what I want to find, multiplied by what's the cost price? Cost price is what, 100 divided by what's the selling price? 140. And if you multiply here, take the x there and multiply by 140 and by 100, you should get 210. Even here too, you could say here too. You could say selling price is what we want to find over 1,500 should be equal to 120 over 100. X is equal to 120 over 100 multiplied by 1,500, and we should get whatever the answer is. Yeah, 1,800. Right, same idea. You could either multiply, use an equivalent fraction and multiply by the equivalent fraction, or you could equate equivalent fractions, right? Because if you multiply by equivalent fraction, you're multiplying by 1. So you're trying to find a way to re-express the answer. If you equate equivalent fractions, they are by definition equal. So you don't even have to, you're not changing anything. You are stating something that's mathematically logical. He said 8 over 8 is equal to 8 over 8 multiplied by 2 over 2. It's the same thing. See, I can equate equivalent fractions or I can multiply by an equivalent fraction, because 2 is the same as 2, so 2 over 2 is 1. Right? It's the exact same idea. Right, let's do the next one. A restaurant buys ingredients for 500 and marks it up by 50% to set the menu price. What is the selling price? Exact same idea. See, same idea. Let's do it a different way. See, selling price is what I want to find over cost price is 500 is equal to 150 is the selling price, 100 plus the 50 over 100. Therefore, x is equal to 150 over 100 multiplied by 500, and we get 750. Alternatively, what you could say is take this 500, divide it into 100 parts, so you get a single unit, and multiply by 150, so you get the selling price, and therefore you should get the same answer of 750. Same ideas, different way, right? So that's how you would solve markup problems. Again, solving markup problems, keep this diagram in your mind. If you're given the markup, let's say the markup was, let's do this question here. Okay, let's say we were given the markup. So the markup is what? 250 Rand. And the markup percentage is 50%. Very simple. So what we can do is, we can say, see, the markup is 250. So I'll take the 250 and divide it into how many parts? 50 parts. Watch here. So this here is 250. Its percentage is 50%. So if I divide this into 50 parts, I get a single part. If I multiply it by 150, if I multiply it by 100, what will I get? Get the selling price or the cost price. That is all you need to know. And see, that's how brilliant this is, because if I was given 250, right, divided by 50, because I get in the single part, and if I multiply that by 100, check what I'll get. See, 250 divided by 50 multiplied by 100 gives you 500. Was it not the cost price given in the question? If I take the same 250 divided by 50 and I multiply it by 150, so I'm getting a single unit. I have to multiply it by 150 units so I can make up this entire rectangle at the top. And what will we get? We should get 750. This is why, with so little information, you can find so much working with percentages. You could get the parts, you could get the whole, or you could get part by part by whole, or whatever the case may be. It's the exact same ideas. We're just applying, we're putting practical scenarios to it. Okay, I hope you understand that. All right, let's move on to the next part. See, selling price, cost price, same diagram we can remember. Look at that diagram there, right? A seller bought a watch for 2,000 and sold it for 2,500. What was the profit made on the sale? Bought it for that cost price. Selling price is 2,500. Profit is 500. Right. If the cost price of a bicycle is 3,000 and it's sold for 3,600, what is the profit percentage? What is the profit percentage? So what do we always know? See, when you're dealing with the cost price and selling price problem, you don't know that this represents 100%. But we don't know the selling price percentage, isn't it? When you're dealing with the discount problem, you know that the selling price is what? 100% in all scenarios. These will change, but this will always be 100%. When you're dealing with the cost price and selling price problem, you know that the cost price will always be 100%, but we don't know the markup and the selling price percentage, because those change according to the scenario, according to the business, and so on. That's the beauty of maths. There's certain things that will never change. So what we can do now is, we can say selling price over cost price must equal to selling price, which is what I want to find, over cost price, x. Therefore, x is equal to, if you take that out there, so 36 over 30 divided by 1, or multiplied by 100. So 36 divided by 30 multiplied by 100 gives you 120%. Right? So 120% represents the selling price percentage. So therefore, what's the profit percentage? 20%. Right? If I want to solve this in one go, watch, if I want to solve this in one go, what I can do is, I could say this here. I could say this represents 100%. I can say that the selling price represents 100% plus some x value, where that x value represents the profit percentage. So therefore, I'll say selling price over cost price is equal to selling price over cost price. I did not change the question, I just re-expressed it. Let me say that again. I did not change the selling price. Instead of calling it x, I called it 100 plus x. So I did not change the selling price, I've just found a different way to represent it. It's the same thing logically. What did I define the x here to be? I defined the x here to be the selling price percentage. What did I define the x to be here? I defined it to be the profit percentage. Understood? Be very careful with how you define your variables. And so we have to simplify this. This will be 120% is equal to 100% plus x. So therefore, x is equal to 20%. See, both different cases, two different methods, case of method 1 and method 2. Here you have to do an additional step and subtract by 100, right? Because you defined x to be the selling price percentage. But here, when you try, in this case, you have just go straight to the answer because we defined x to be the profit percentage. So it depends on whichever mental frame you using? Do I want to find the selling price first, then subtract by 100? Does that sound more logical to me? Or do I want to go directly to the answer and say, no, I want to find the profit percentage. So how do I re-express the selling price so that we can find the profit percentage? Okay, very, very simple. A store buys a table for 1,800, sells it for 2,200. What is the cost price of the table if the profit made is 400? I think in this question there's actually an error in this question because so if a store buys the tables and sells it for 2,800, what's the cost price of the table if a 400 profit is made? It's 1,800. Yeah, so there's actually an error with this problem. Okay, let's look at the next question. A phone is purchased at 4,500 and is sold at a loss of 600. What is the selling price on the phone? So if it's sold at a loss of 600, it's basically saying that they sold it at a discount. Think about that. So exactly as I stated with the discount scenario where I said that when a business sells something at a discount, they're basically selling it at a loss, right? Can you see how the ideas are starting to link, right? So basically what we can say is that 4,500 represents the 100%. You see what they mean by, in this context of selling price, is in fact the discount price. You're treating this as a discount problem. So this is actually a selling price which represents 100%. This is actually the discount that we're talking about, right? And this discount price is basically the price that the customer will pay, which is a loss to the business. So 4,500 minus 600 is 3,900. But if they ask me what is the discount price as a percentage, then you'll say, right, I can solve this in two ways. I can say selling price over discount price is equal to selling price over discount price, right? So your selling price is 4,500 over your discount price is, or your discounted price is 3,900, isn't it? And then your selling price is 100 and your discounted price will be 100, which will be over X. And then if you have to solve, it'll be X is equal to 100 over 4,500 multiplied by 3,900, and we get 100 divided by 4,500 multiplied by 3,900. You get 86.6 recurring percent. Alternatively, what I could do is I could say 4,500 was equal to, so the selling price over the discount was equal to the selling price 100 over the discount X. And then I can solve for X here. X is equal to 100 over 4,500 multiplied by 600, and we get 13.3 recurring. And if you take 100, so this is the discount. So if you take 100 minus the discount, you get the discounted price percentage. So if you say 100 minus 13.3 recurring, you should get 86.6 recurring percent. Right, very simple problem. Hire purchase agreement is similar to a short-term loan. Usually the buyer makes an initial down payment, which is called a deposit, and then pays the rest of the money plus interest as installments. Hire purchase agreement always follows simple interest. So again, remember all of the stuff that we've done from simple interest will apply to hire purchase agreement. But now we just bring in one small thing here, which is called a deposit. So it's not very, very difficult. As I have mentioned on the previous page, the time period, monthly, quarterly, yearly, daily, should match the period of the interest rate. I've already talked about that extensively. Right, so let's say we have A is equal to P into 1 plus I N. Then this here is the amount that you invest, I is the interest, and N is the time period. If this is a per annum, meaning per year amount, then what it basically states is that every year, this is the amount of interest you will collect. Every year, this is the amount of interest that you will collect. Whether it's 2%, 3%, whatever, that's the amount of interest you collect. The N is the time period. If you got an investment for 24 months, but the interest rate is a per year amount, you can't say that the number of times this investment gain interest is 24 times. It's incorrect. You have to say it's 2 years. Because if this is a yearly amount, every year, this is how much the investment should grow by. And if you had it there for 24 months, you actually had it there for 2 years. So that investment needs to grow 2 times. Understood? Not 24 times. Because the N is telling you how many times it must collect the interest. How many times must it collect the interest? 2 times. Not 24. If you're putting 24, you're saying it must collect the interest for 24 years. Understood? So it works hand in hand. I'll explain this extensively. And lastly, Foreign exchange rates, very simple. We make use of equivalent fractions. It's the same idea with conversions, but it's just some brief idea here. Each country has its own currency. Since its people have unique wants and needs, and has to make unique monetary decisions to accommodate for the people. Also, since each country has access to different resources, and its vicinity, people's needs and wants change accordingly. So having a unique currency will help judge the strength of that economy and facilitate trade from one country to another. Currency are stated as pairs, and we will often be asked to convert from one currency to another currency because it will enable people to understand its purchasing power in another country. Use the same idea as conversions. Right, so this is just some introduction. All these ideas will make sense as you start working with higher grades and enter the real world. You'll start to understand this. Like when people go to overseas, they'll need to convert their money from one currency to another. You can't go pay, use rands, your rands in America. You have to use dollars. So you go to a foreign exchange market, you change your rands for dollars. But since the American dollar is so strong, you'll get less dollars for your rand. It's basically what the saying, because USD is stronger. So when you go there, your purchasing power decreases. So here, if you could buy 100 bottles of Coke for 2,200, there you maybe will only be able to buy 22 or 20 bottles, or even maybe on 2 bottles. I'd say it just depends on your purchasing power. Okay, so let's work with problems and conclude the section. A washing machine costs 8,000 Rand. The store offers a higher purchase plan with a deposit of 1,500 and a monthly payment of 600 for 18 months. How much total will you pay for the washing machine by the end of the hire purchase agreement? Now, this is very important because it's a very deep question, right? So you have the 8,000 Rand, right? You paid 1,500 in deposit, so you basically took out a loan for 6,500. Right. What is the formula that we're using for hire purchase agreement? A is equal to P into 1 plus I N. So what this amount represents is the P value. Understood? Right. Monthly payments of 600 for 18 months will be, so for this year, for this loan P, you did 600 per month times 8 times 18 gives us 10,800. Okay, what is this value? This is the same as the A value, right? So how much total will you pay for the washing machine by the end of the hire purchase agreement? Okay, so how much total would you pay? See this here is your loan amount plus your interest, isn't it? So how much will you pay in total? It'll be 10,800 plus 1,500. Many students forget that part. So it'll be 10,800 plus 1,500, which will actually be 12,300. Because you put this money in. Although you took a loan on this amount, so basically on a hire purchase agreement, the total that you'll pay is the loan amount plus your interest plus your deposit. Very important. This deposit is very important. Many students forget it because they forget about the deposit because they did that initially. So they take it out. Because we take it out initially to get the loan amount, forget about the deposit. But looking at the zooming out and seeing it from the bigger perspective, the deposit does count. Okay, let's do the next question. This was a very simple question. A furniture store sells a sofa for 12,000 Rand. So they sold the sofa for 12,000 Rand. If a customer pays a deposit of 2,000 Rand and agrees to pay the rest of the amount for 800 Rand per month for 15 months, so then what is the rest of the amount? It's 10,000 Rand. So therefore this is your P value, and then that 800 multiplied by 15, which will give you your A amount, is 12,000 Rand. So 12,000 Rand. This is your A amount. So they ask you what is the total amount paid towards the sofa and how much of interest, if any, is included in the hire purchase agreement. So what is the total that you paid? The total that you paid is the 12,000, right? In this 12,000, you have your loan amount plus your interest plus the 2,000 that you paid. So a total of 14,000 Rand you paid to buy the sofa. And it makes sense because it's a 12,000 Rand sofa, you paid 14,000 Rand. And then what is the total, or how much of interest did you pay? So if that's your A amount, if this is your A amount, you need to subtract the P so you'll get the I. So therefore, your interest is equal to 12,000 Rand minus the 10,000 Rand, which is the loan amount, should give you 2,000 Rand. You pay 2,000 Rand worth of interest, right? A car can be purchased for 150,000 with a down payment of 30,000. So 150,000 less the down payment of 30,000. So you took a loan for 120,000. Right, 120,000. So this is the P value. The remaining balance is financed for hire purchase with monthly installments of 2,500 for 60 months. So it'll be 2,500 multiplied by 60 gives you what? 150,000. So what is this 150,000? It represents the A amount. The 150,000 represents the A amount. So calculate the total amount paid for the car and the total interest paid over the term for the hire purchase. The total amount that you'll pay for the car is this 150,000 plus the 30,000. So you paid a total of 180,000. Why? It's the loan amount plus the interest amount plus the deposit that we get from here. Don't forget that. So you paid a total of 180,000. The amount of interest that you paid will be A minus P, which will be a total of 30,000. So therefore, you paid 30,000 in interest and you paid a total of 180,000. Very simple. Now, let's say that they made this question a bit more tricky. They say, what is the interest rate percentage? So A is equal to P into 1 plus IN. A is 150,000. P is 120,000. There'll be 1 plus I is what we need to find. And N is 60 over 12. This has to be in a per annum amount, so this has to be in a yearly amount. And if you have to solve for this, we'll get 30,000, 150 divided by 120, which will be 1,25. 1,25 is equal to 1 plus 60 over 12 is 5i. So it'll be 5i. So therefore, 5i is equal to 0,25. And therefore, I is equal to 0,25 multiplied by 0,25 divided by 5 is 0,05. So 0,05. But this is in a decimal form, so we have to convert it to the percentage form. We have to multiply by 100. So therefore, I is equal to 5% what? Per annum. The only reason I could get it in the per annum amount is because that was in a yearly amount. So this is like the most trickiest question that you could get. I'd say it's 5%. And you could do that for this problem here as well, given the information that you have. So you just needed 1, 2, 3 pieces of information and you can find the I. Right. Okay, let's do this. If the exchange rate for rands to the USD is 15 Rand to 1 USD. So 15 Rand is equal to 1 USD. How many USD will you receive if you exchange 3,000 Rand? So you could do this in one of two ways. You could say 3,000 Rand over 1 multiplied by 1 USD over 15 Rand. If you multiply this Rand and the Rand will cancel, you'll be left with a USD amount. So that will be 3,000 divided by 15, which would be 200 what? USD, because that's the only measurement left. Or you could say 15 Rand over 1 USD is equal to 3,000 Rand over X. And if you solve for this, X is equal to 3,000 Rand over 15 Rand, which should equal to 200 USD. You can either multiply by an equivalent fraction or you can equate to equivalent fractions, because when you equate to equivalent fractions, you are saying that they are in proportion. Same idea. Different topic, same idea. Theory remains the same, questions change. A traveler exchanges 10,000 Rand into euros at an exchange rate of 18 Rand to 1 euros. How many euros will the traveler use? And I will do my method, you do the other method. So you'll do the method where you equate both the equivalent ratio. So 10,000 over 1 multiplied by 1 euro over 18 Rand. So therefore you divide by 18, 555,5 recurring euros. Right. Next one, if you want to buy a smartphone priced at 7,500 and an exchange rate of 20 is to 1 British pound, how many British pound do you need to purchase the smartphone? Same idea. 7,500 over X must be equal to 20 Rand over 1 British pound. Now remember, Rand must be in the numerator, British pounds must be in the denominator, or British pounds must be in the numerator and rands must be in the denominator. That's only when they'll actually be equal. So therefore, x is equal to 7,500 rand over 20 rand, and that gives you 375 rands. Understood? So that's how you'll solve the British pound case. So that'll give you 375 British pounds, and that's how you solve that. Very simple problems. So that's about it for the finance part. The next part we will discuss direct and indirect proportions, and we'll be done with word problems.